Hello everybody, you're welcome back again to the Reggae Appreciation Society. 1990 was among the most pivotal for Jamaican music and remembered by the fans for different reasons. It was the very year the dancehall took full control of the island, the epoch that the digital era became fully matured, and the year we saw one of the greatest sound clashes in history as the Don Gorgon Ninja Man went head to head with Loverman Shabba Ranks in spectacular fashion.
Don't listen. This is stardom. Alright?
But for some, it marked a dark cultural shift that many believed was the very death of reggae itself, as exemplified by the shocking attack on one of the genre's elders in the person of Bunny Wailer himself. As far as that island's cultural history is concerned, that incident was among the most atrocious on record. The man was 1/3 of the most important reggae band of all time, a band that more than any other put the music and indeed the entire country on the global map as a cultural superpower. All those accolades went out the window as the man we call Jabi was rejected by the more than 20,000 strong crowd who almost staged a riot and were very close to inflicting bodily harm on one of Jamaica's greatest heroes. It was described as a cultural coup and was believed by many to have been instigated by people hiding behind the crowd, a conspiracy that Jabi himself addressed in a song about the incident a year later. The attack was so infamous that it sowed the seeds of a movement that sprang up a few years later to shift the negative atmosphere in the culture and music. Let's take a look at the night Bunny Wailer was attacked and chased off stage at Sting 1990. Now this story begins on Boxing Day, the 26th of December 1990, at what was the 7th edition of that phenomenal annual festival that since 1984 had been the platform for epic lyrical battles between the biggest dancehall DJs on the planet. That particular edition was the most expansive, with more than 42 acts all lined up to do their thing on the microphone. Fire-spitting ghetto soldier Cutty Ranks delivered a spectacular show, while singer Kokoti did what he did best as he charmed the audience with his mesmerizing voice, plus Sister Nancy, who gave a masterclass in poise and swagger with a performance of her hit song Bam Bam. Even the bizarre gimmick of dancehall duo Ghost and Culture shook that venue when they made their way onto the stage in caskets, brought in there with a hearse with makeup on their faces like zombies. But the high points of the event were still to come in the titanic Ninja Man and Shabba Ranks showdown.
Shabba Ranks! Ninja Boo! Ninja Boo! Ninja Boo! Ninja Boo! By the region we are black and white. You're gonna dead in an expensive suit, boy. Top 10 tune. I want me to use for your 10.
And the main attraction of Bunny Wailer, the last surviving member of the Wailers, since the passing of Peter Tosh 3 years before. In the build-up to that concert, Bunny, like his comrade and brother Peter, had been very critical of dancehall and the musical shift from the conscious tunes of the 70s and early 80s to all the punani lyrics and gunman culture that took off with the explosion of digital dancehall in the mid-1980s. And like most Wailers fans know, Bunny in particular was very outspoken, and his fiery comments would register deeply with youngsters in Jamaica who were all disciples of dancehall. And that night, he would get their feedback in the most unexpected way. So at 5 a.m. that morning, Bunny Wailer and his band, the Solo Monarchs, and backup dancers made their way up onto the stage to face the massive crowd of 25,000 people who up until then had been whipped into a frenzy over the previous 10 hours. That crowd was primarily dancehall fans who had been jumping to the high energy performances of previous artists and their ghetto-fabulous swagger. So it was an anticlimax when Bunny started singing some lesser-known, spiritually inclined songs. The audience's first reaction was a stunned silence that by the third song began to manifest into audible grumbles and complaints that grew louder with each song. And those rumbles would grow into loud jeers that shocked and offended Bunny Wailer so much that he made a signal to his band to stop playing. It was the first time that this elder statesman of Jamaican music had experienced that kind of reception in what was then a sparkling 3-decade career. He lifted the microphone to admonish the disrespectful youngsters and could only utter 3 words, "I and I," when the first bottle flew past his head and smashed to pieces on the floor behind him. That seemed to be the signal everyone else needed, as a salvo of missiles of sticks, stones, rocks and bottles crashed all over the stage and into Bunny and his crew. The band and backup dancers ran for cover, but Bunny was too shocked to even move and had to be shielded by the roadies in his crew, as now bricks and stones would pour onto the platform. But luckily, before he could get injured, he was hustled off stage by his crew as that crowd was about to storm the stage. It was official, the great Jabi had been rejected by a new generation of Jamaican youngsters who were making a statement that dancehall and not roots reggae was in charge. A cultural coup, if there ever was one. It was a massive shock to the entire island, and the press went crazy with the headlines the next morning, with riders like Bunny Wailer stoned or Wailer feels the sting in popular paper Jamaican Gleaner. Over the next few days, literally thousands of angry fans would write letters and columns in newspapers condemning the whole event and calling it the death of reggae itself. There was outrage and loss of quarters, but that was where it stopped. Dancehall was now not only the dominant sound in Jamaica by far, but it soon caught the attention of American record labels who would sign the likes of Supercat, Shakademus and Pliers, and lots of others, including Shabba Ranks, who not only became one of the biggest stars within the next 2 years, but made history as the first dancehall artist to win the Grammy for Best Reggae Album, beating roots and lovers rock heavyweights like Beres Hammond, Judy Mowatt, and Inner Circle in the process. But mind you, the attack on Bunny Wailer would have cultural consequences. Among the many performers at Sting 1990 was Tony Rebel. Though a dancehall act, he was appalled at how the elder had been treated and saw it as a symptom of a deep problem in Jamaican society, which had been made worse by all the slackness in dancehall. And he got the inspiration to be part of a movement that could restore the conscious messaging to reggae. And this idea soon snowballed into what became known as the Rasta Renaissance movement of the mid to late 1990s. A very powerful movement and influential crew that was led by the likes of Garnet Silk, Luciano, Anthony B, and Sizzla Kalonji. As for Bunny Wailer himself, he believed what happened to him was instigated by powerful figures in the music industry who wanted to send a message that dancehall was now on top. He addressed the whole thing in the album and song Dance Massive from 1992. The song Dance Massive was essentially a dancehall track on which he showcased his versatility and amazing skills as a toaster. To be honest, he did a wonderful job and showed he could hang with the best and roll with that trend if he really wanted to. The infamous stoning of this icon was a dark chapter on his wonderful career, but in perspective, it did inspire a cultural rebirth and a consciousness that demanded better of the music, though slackness is still a major feature. By the time Bunny Wailer passed away, he was celebrated by both old and young dancehall and roots reggae fans as an all-time legend and a founding father of Jamaican music, and definitely one of the people who set the stage for the creation of dancehall itself in the first place. So there you have it. Thank you for watching this video today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, Jah bless.